Hey there, I'm Eternal, and I'm an object show fan that has barely watched any object shows. We have to fix that. Let's play Object Catchup. Hello and welcome into Object Catch-Up, the series where we discuss object show episodes right after watching them. Whether they're new or old, famous or unknown, it doesn't matter. We will get to it all. Now, for today, we need to talk about a show that released an episode yesterday. The Objectcember video is still on hold until WTB releases, and also because there is a bit of a bigger release currently, which dropped yesterday. So, Tyler Lantz, a YouTube creator with over 200,000 subscribers after making many BFTI videos, a lot of them being reanimated. Videos started their own show 4 months ago called Awesome Insanity, and that after, as I said, 4 months from its beginning, had its episode 2 start off here. So we will be watching both of these episodes, commenting on them, and then maybe we can even pull off a request. Actually, we most likely will pull off a request or two. I'll look at something else for sure, but the main topic is Awesome Insanity. We'll be starting off here with episode 1 of Awesome Insanity, which is titled Strike 1 with 122,000 views. Let's hit it. Let's watch it. Let's do all that stuff. No blabbering on about it. Let's go. Okay, so I just watched episode 1 of Awesome Insanity Strike 1. So, very interesting little show for sure. I think it's an episode 1 that shows a lot of promise. However, there are definitely some negatives to it. So, let's start off here with talking about the animation. The animation is elite. This is absolutely what I'd like to call big object show animation, right? When you see how this looks like, you go like, oh yeah, this is one of the big ones, isn't it? All right, because like it's just the highest quality, and it's got a lot of it. I think I've been trying to find a way to describe how this looks. I think the best way that I can describe this is like goofy object invasion. You know, it's like goofy object invasion without too many of the other effects, right? It's kind of that roughly that era with a little bit of II style sprinkled on, right? But yeah, animationally, it's absolutely really good. You can see characters move pretty fast in the way that they move. They have a lot of different facial expressions. The way that they walk, they have a lot of different walking and moving and bobbing and camera angles. There's tons of camera angles. All around, whether it's from like diagonal or up and down, which is, very difficult to do. And that's one of the main things that settles in one of the elite tier quote unquote shows compared to the rest. Is something like this. Now, in terms of writing for this show is a little bit more questionable. So we have ourselves everybody's here on a grass field. I'm waiting for a show, introducing them to each other, getting prepared. Host will be here any minute, and we've got ourselves our cast of characters. The cast itself is pretty cool, there's some mean ones, there's some over tactical ones, there's some ones more averse to danger, ones more into the danger. It's a relatively well-constructed cast from like an objective standpoint. It really doesn't feel like there's too much of any specific category. You do have to remember that we are really early into the show, right? So like but yeah, it seems like a relatively tactical cast in the sense of like, yeah, we picked out people that are going to be different to each other, so that we have a lot of different varieties of things, right? Some you see, there's like the don't care character, there's a more upset character, there's like there's a lot of different character archetypes here included for sure. However, so the pacing is the one thing about this show that I think is a bit weird, because it's like it's fast, man. The way that these interactions play out is quick, right? Like it's just like we just punchy. It's really punchy. Like remember, episode ones are usually the long ones, because you have to do all of this introductory shenanigan, and here we do everything. Like we do all of the introductory shenanigan, but just do it so quickly. Like we're really speed running a show out here. But okay, what is our cows? We've got some couple fellas. I really like the $1 coin. They're fun with the way that they're crying. Oh, I'm worth less than $10 and stuff. My favorite gag was when they were like, "You don't want to listen to my problems." That you're right, and then it's like, "Fine, I'll tell you." That was a fun gag. I really like that one. To be fair, that was a good one. Then we had some other fellas, the quesadilla, which I like how they went to eat food and then it wasn't good and they were just looking at the quesadilla like, no, they're not doing that. The trash bag is a little bit interesting. I can't exactly figure out. They were a little bit weird because they're like, "Ooh, I'm a tough competitor," but then they were like, "Yo, isn't this challenge dangerous? Hold on, are you risk averse or are you down to take risks? Because you were trying to set up alliances, but you're also scared of danger, which is interesting because those seem like initially counteracting things. But I mean, hey, if it works, it works. We have the mouse fella, which is like a Bluetooth mouse. But yeah, like that diagonal shot of like the helicopter coming in is interesting. We've got ourselves a relative TV host, like we're very much so doing a TV show type object show here, where our prize is $40 million. You know what? That's a big prize. That is a quite a big prize. They eventually use the shopping bag to try to catch Buzzer, which is our host, but it actually lands on Ball instead. Buzzer ends up holding our teams here. 40 contestants divided into teams of two. Buzzer gets interrupted quite a lot. However, it seems like the buzzer itself can just pretty much do whatever they want. It's a really interesting buzzer. Like in terms of like what powers you have, it's really interesting because that buzzer seems to pretty much do whatever they want at a given time, or it's recovery, punching, getting somebody away, making something fall, right? So it's an interesting. I wonder if that is how it works. If it's like, oh, anything you imagine, press the buzzer and it'll happen, right? Like the buzzer makes whatever the buzzer's thinking of right now, which is interesting, if it was true. But yeah, they mainly use it to immediately shut down any interruptions so that we properly have a show here that happens, which it's nice instead of like, they have a proper mechanism instead of just going shut up, right? But we have ourselves the two teams. So the two teams that we have end up being Burnt Chicken Nuggets, led by Charger Box, alongside Christmas Ornament, Ticket, I think, the Popcorn Machine, $1 coin, and the $10 bill, as well as Red Box as one of those like TV rental stations. This team, it's hard to really judge, man. This is a much more like action-based show and much less of a character interaction-based show. Like we pretty much don't get much information on these characters. Like we get the baseline, but it's not really enough where I can go, oh, this character's like this, oh, this character's like that. Like we're kind of just, we're being very punchy here in terms of action. Like, we're going dun, 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 like we're not, we're not exactly taking too much time to breathe in what each character is. So, yeah. But we now have the other team, which is the Dodgers, created with led by Ball. So that's the Dodgers. So that's Dodgeball themselves, who's the don't care character that still wants to win. They got the Torch, Quesadilla, Mouse, Trash Bag, then Shopping Bag, as well as the Hook. So those end up doing ourselves the challenge. So the challenge ends up being none other than you have to throw a ball at a buzzer, and then you will go to a platform and fight 1v1. And if your team wins the 1v1, you get a point. First to 3 points wins. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is the point of the first part of the challenge? The answer is, I don't know. What is the point? What? Why did we throw a ball at a buzzer? Why did that? Like, if a team does it first, it literally doesn't matter because you have to wait for the other team to do the 1v1s anyways, right? So, like, what was the point of throwing the ball? That was 100% pointless. That's kind of weird because, like, in a show that's, like, so focused, like, in this episode, that's so focused on speed, getting things done quickly, right? We don't even have team forming. That's just not a thing. right? We get the teams already formed, right? And it's like, wait, why are we having a pointless part of the challenge? I don't really know, but okay. We skipped the pointless part of the challenge, and let's go into the secondary part of the challenge, which has um red box against the trash bag. The trash bag's too heavy, even though the red box, I don't even know if the red box was actually trying to push them. So they win 1-0 for the Dodgers. Then the mouse comes in trying to bribe the $10 bill. Yo, I can give you $11 if you want. But no, $10 is proud of being $10. So they absolutely combo the mouse. Dun, 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 dun. The mouse comes over, has an electrical circuit, and explodes. Not what would happen, especially as a Bluetooth mouse. They would probably just like lose connection. But oh well, $10 bill has 1 point. So wait, yeah, it's 1-1. Now we have a 2v2 round, a surprising 2v2 round. So Christmas ornament and ticket versus torch and hook. Yeah, it is not a great a great 1v1. Both Christmas ornament and ticket are extremely fragile, and they both just die very quickly to the hands of torch and hook, which means that the Dodgers go 2-1 up. Look, what you see? Look at that animation of the Dodgers of like the buzzers jump and like the squash and stretch on it. It's insane. It is like really. It's a really good animation. The animation is really high quality. I'm not gonna lie. But then we have ourselves the third one between the team leaders, Charger Box and Ball. Ball is way more of a for real team leader. Like a for real trying to win than Charger Box, and they do in fact hit it. We have some cool camera angles, and the Dodgers end up winning 3-1, and that means that Charger Box ends up losing and being up for elimination. So yeah, overall, this show has immediately hit off with it looks really pretty. The audio work is all really good. Like both, it's audio edited well. Voice actors all do a good job. There's a lot of variety in terms of the characters themselves. We don't get to see too much about them because this is not the focal point. It really hasn't been the focal point. But we have a lot of different styles of characters, and it seemed like a very manufactured cast in the sense that yes, this is where we hit all the beats that we expect the cast to have. And then we have an interesting host, a little bit of backstory. Apparently, a criminal, as a syrup is trying to catch them because there's a wanted poster. You'll win 10 million bucks if you can catch the criminal, which is none other than Buzzer. No, 100,000. You don't win 10 million. Never mind. Okay, not that much. And $100,000 if you can catch a Buzzer who's apparently wanted for some reason because they probably did the crime of, I don't know, robbing a bank for $40 million. That's what I guess. But yeah, one criticism that I'm gonna give. Okay, sure, the voting screen looks cool, but there's enough space to put the names in there. Come on, like there's enough space in the voting screen. The icons, there's way enough. There's enough space to put the names below it. I understand that. Oh, it'll look worse. No, dude, you understand? Putting the names on it, it's not a looking worse thing. It's a ease of use thing. Like it's nice for an objective standpoint. Like it's good to have that information. And I don't care if it looks a bit worse. Like I don't care how it looks. I need the info. Okay, but fine. I mean, fine. Okay, it looks pretty. But yeah, that is what I have to say about episode 1 of Awesome Insanity. The second episode is way longer, actually. The episode that released yesterday. Sitting at 17 minutes. There's also a hidden third video on the place. Wonder what that is. But we have it's called Knock on Wood. 17 minutes. I'm very curious about this because, like, again, with the way that this episode was such unbelievably high speed for not really any needed reason, I'm interested in how it's 7 minutes longer. Are we just having are we slowing down our pacing, or are we just having more things happen? I guess we're gonna have to find out. Let's watch Awesome Insanity 2, Knock on Wood. Oh yeah, I completely forgot to. I'm sorry, I completely forgot to look at the elimination to guess the elimination. Charger Box did lead their team wrongly. And maybe Christmas Ornament because they did flop pretty hard. I guess. I'm gonna say Christmas Ornament. I don't know why. I'm not. Would it be Charger Boss for technically betraying their team or whatever? No, I'm gonna say Christmas Ornament because they did go, but they absolutely flopped really hard. Or do I say Red Box? No, 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 no. Red Box. Red Box is my prediction because Red Box was like kind of mean at the start and then also flopped by saying a mean thing. Red Box is my prediction, but I don't really know. That's why I didn't predict originally, but I completely forgot. Okay, now episode 2, go. Okay, so I just watched Awesome Insanity 2 Knock on Wood, and this is a very interesting episode with a lot of things in the episode to talk about. Um, so okay, so earlier when I was talking about episode 1, all right, I did mention I defined the animation style for this as like object invasion, but goofy with a sprinkle of II. No, that's incorrect. I think this is Object Invasion but goofy, but with a sprinkle of BFDIA. I got it confused. Quite a bit of it kind of gives off the vibe in the way that the facial expressions are. Some of them are like more heavily exaggerated, right? There's a lot of these heavily exaggerated facial expressions, which is something that BFDIA tends to do way more than II, right? So, that makes way more sense to the definition, but it's also the high quality kind of animation with a lot of angles and stuff that Audience Invasion tends to pull. So I think it's the best way to describe it. So we start off here with our scene with the maple syrup fella who's maybe possibly going out of their town to chase after Buzzer because they need to find them for 100,000 bucks if you can catch Buzzer, according to the wanted poster. So they're off on their motorbike looking at the sun. They go to the gigantic gas station with the name Gas on it. They fuel up, which is it's nice. And then they go over. This is a very much so a very societal object show in the sense that we are in a society. Right, that's like a meme, I think, but like we're very much so in a set, we're in a universe, right? We're in a world. There are towns, there are houses, there are people with lives and other like there are people, okay, around. It's not just kind of like, like one of the things about a show like BFDI originally, right, is that BFDI and especially like are these shows that feel super like blocked up in their own space, like they're so far away from any other people that it seems that is like it's interesting. BFDIA eventually starts, hanging out with towns and shit, but like before, like original BFDI, those might as well be the only 20 people that exist in the world, But eventually we start talking to Ball Chills because they win for their team as a team leader and everything. They end up having a hot bath, which ends up being a little bit too hot, so they fly out. Shopping bag had a couple of tears, apparently, because you gotta remember they got pulled very heavily by, I think, the torch fella when we're trying to save the Buzzard out there in episode 1. By the way, wow, did he miss? I don't know how the hell, like, Buzzer landed like on the other side of the crowd, like the entire opposite side where Ball was. How the hell did we miss the landing that badly? But we did. Then we have Hook, which just desperately wants food. Just really, really badly wants food. They look at the quesadilla and they go, please let me eat like a little bit of you. But no, we don't eat that. First of all, I'm just okay. I mean, one of the classic things, of course, Hook is doing like the goofy character. Hook reminds me a lot of Nickel. I don't know what it is about it, but we get major Nickel vibes. But like the way that I'd bet, I don't. So like the thing about it is that, of course, first of all, how does an object get full? Because that, oh, you want one crumb, and later on they go jump down to eat one singular popcorn, like a singular popcorn, and it's like, wait, what? If that's not gonna be enough, right? Like you want a meal, Like I'm so lost, but okay then. Um, we end up having some fellas, and we end up suggesting the idea of the popcorn machine popcorn, and the Hook's like, I mean, I could jive with that. Then we end up having some people starting to complain about Charger Boss, like the gold coin. Um, which ends up being on a debate to Christmas ornament. Christmas ornament is very much so a team oriented personality. You know, they're like, yes, I'm going to play for the team, and I'm going to fight for the team, and I'm going to protect my team. You know, very much so a team player. That is what Christmas ornament is. And you see, it took until this episode for me to start locking these down, because episode 1 just goes by so fast. I still don't know why. Like, it really didn't need to go that fast, but I guess whatever. Um, we end up having Gold Coin be much more of a drama, a drama king, very much so a drama king. Just like causing ruckus. Oh, I can't believe that you would do this and you would do that, right? They're just like want to be upset at something, and Christmas Ornament gets upset at them. Like, you shouldn't be talking if you don't do anything interesting yourself. And they do that. Like, you see the red box facial especially. You see, that's super BFDIA. Ruby does that all the time. But then we end up having some chats. Two charging box themselves over outside. Being like Charger Boss being disappointed because they did fail their team. Well, no, their team was already losing. You know, like, the reason why it was up to you is because, like, like, you wouldn't have won for your team even if you won yet, you know? Like, we wouldn't have won, but you could only lose because, like, the other fellas had already lost before you. It's like, if you're in a penalty shootout, right? And the two people before you miss, and then you miss and you now lose. Yes, that's your fault, but at the same time, it's also their fault for putting you in such a disadvantageous situation, right? Like, putting you in a life or death spot. But I get it. Team leader is supposed to bring the team from down to up, right, and everything. But yeah, Christmas ornament is like, yo, you gave it your all, and also matters. And now Buzzer comes in to set up the elimination over at the campfire. We keep hurrying it up with time. Can please, please, Buzzer, relax. Why are you speed running the show? Bro is speedrunning. I have never heard this bro just start, like, do any section of the show without going, all right, well, we don't want to waste any time. No, okay, waste a little bit. What is this guy doing? I get it. You're on the run or whatever, so maybe that's why. But then it's like, why are you hosting a show for $40 billion? But, anyways, if you end up having some fellas, you get a crouton if you're safe. So, we end up having a couple of people safe, but there's a tie for first safe between Christmas Ornament and the Popcorn Machine. And then eventually over at the final two end up being Gold Coin and Red Box. Yeah, Gold Coin for just kind of being the pesky little annoying one that complains, and then Red Box being just kind of the overall mean one. Without too many redeeming qualities, and they do indeed get eliminated with about 1,500 points that they complain about the joke. Well, yeah, this makes sense. I didn't originally clock this when I had originally guessed, but, like, eventually this is one of those picks where it's like, when you're I don't think it's the first choice to vote Red Box because they just don't do that much in the episode. However, if you actually put any type of thinking into it, like, who should I vote? I think the most logical conclusion arrives to Red Box, right? Because they were kind of mean, they didn't do anything, and they don't really have redeeming qualities. At least Gold Coin didn't do anything kind of mean, but at least they have some redeeming qualities, just being more fun, right? And having more screen time. But now we have ourselves not dinner. We actually have sleep because, I don't know, they didn't want to eat dinner. We discovered that a couple of people have certain pets. So we have a pet goldfish, that popcorn machine, which is definitely dead, and a pet cricket that Ticket has. And apparently they toured the country and performed the plays because she's an actress. So we're trying to win the $40 million for funding. Hey, that would be some hella funding. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the price of this show is fucking astronomical. Like, as far as prizes go for a show, yes, this one's crazy. I mean, who wants to be a millionaire? Like, it's just, that's $1 million. This show's $40 million, and the challenges have not even been that hard. You know, like, we've not actually had that many difficult challenges. It's a new day. Officially, it's the new morning. By the way, shout out to sunrise and object shows. Like, you know, like, that's gotta be one of the best times. Like as far as times go, whenever it shows in sunrise, you can have all that orangey sky as the sun's coming out. It always looks really pretty when a high production value show does it. More shows should do that. It looks way better than just a plain day. Um, but like eventually the burnt chicken nuggets, they're ready to play. They didn't mind. The winning team, the Dodgers were just sleeping out of their mind, being like, oh well deserved. Except Quesadilla. Quesadilla's already awake. Quesadilla drinking the coffee and everything. But nice to see some attitude in there for once. Quesadilla is Quesadilla is interesting. They're pretty like assertive in the way that like she acts. Um, ends up as being a relatively solid team component. I think that she could go far. Like looking into it right now. And then we have ourselves the challenge, which is an on-water relay race. So how it works, by the way, excellent little showcase of the challenge with the paper. That's always really cool. But so the challenge ends up being a relay race, but in the first part, 3 people are paddling. In the second part, 2 people are paddling. And in the third part, only one character is paddling. And you have to get the baton from one team to the next, to the next, until eventually you get to the end and you place the baton at the finish. So this challenge is interesting. However, I'm gonna complain a little bit about one pet peeve of this show. Okay, that I kind of find annoying. So one of the ways for a show, whether it's a reality show, or an object show, right? The way to create character dynamics, right? Who believes in who is who, and like who likes who chooses what, right? Is to have the characters pick shit, right? Because that's how you can properly understand who vibes with whom. But the thing about this show is that this show, for some reason, is not giving any choice to anybody. And it's a little bit unfortunate because it's like, sure, like you can have some really interesting strategy if you just allow the teams to pick who goes on each leg. No? Right? Wouldn't that be interesting? Like you just have actual choices instead of just TPing everybody sort of in a random order, and it's like, and then we have the teams who play. But wouldn't it be best if the teams had to decide how they could do it, and then eventually they can do tactics, you know? Like we're in a show where tactics are recommended. At the end of the day, it's a reality. This is a very much a reality show inspired object show, which means that we should do reality show things. And even the concept, right, of like doing the teams themselves. I mean, allow the teams to be picked, right? Like it's a good, like like it would be better. Like a lot of the best object show teams in history are teams that arrive and get formed because of a communal belief, right? A lot of people really like Death Pact, and why does Death Pact work? Because there are people with a communal assortment, right? But oh well, whatever. Um, we have ourselves the relay, which begins. Except one person gets to sit out and go on an all expenses paid night out, because I don't really know why, but they get to do that. Bo immediately volunteers. Bo is that type of character that specifically will try literally only if they have to. Like if they're on the spot, be like, win the challenge. Okay, sure, I'll lead my team and win the challenge. But as soon as they can relax or not do a thing, you betcha they will be not doing the thing all the way to the downtown. But yeah, they end up going over with the cheese block, and then we have ourselves the trash bag, who decides to take over as leader. This character is also immensely interesting. I cannot clock what personality this is. They're like leader who really wants to lead the team, but also really doesn't want to actually do anything. They're like those leaders that sit back and go like, do the challenge, and then they're like, yep, job done. Whew. Real tiring shit out here, isn't it? Like entirely oblivious to people making fun of them, right? So like that's interesting. And then as a team end up being behind alongside Quesadilla, because Quesadilla and Mouse are paddling. However, they end up sort of of course, it's a 2v3 at the end of the day with a heavy trash bag. Because remember the trash bag was heavy. We sorted this out in the other time, so there's a lot of trash on the bag. However, the other team ends up being half distracted because Gold and Charger Box, who, already have a little bit of beef going on because of Gold Coin, trying to cause ruckus earlier, starts debating about who's paddling the wrong way. Charger Box was indeed paddling the wrong way, though. I kind of usually I'd expect Charger Box to be correct, but no, Charger Box is kind of like a team leader that doesn't actually know what they're doing. Like, I'm sure they're trying, but they don't actually know what they're doing. The heart's in the right place. They're just, I mean, their heart's in the right place. Their brain just isn't. Like, Christmas ornament eventually just comes in and is like, yo, what the? Can y'all stop? Because I'll lead for a bit, and they do indeed lead. Going left, right, left, right. No idea how the hell Trash Box got curly fries. Probably from, well, it was probably within their garbage. And then we end up having ourselves the two teams reaching at very similar times, to be honest, onto the second phase, where we have a torch and a shopping bag alongside popcorn and the $10 bill. In the meantime, we have the W restaurant. Because that's the name of the restaurant. That's just called W restaurant. They end up having Diamond, who keeps running by. They look so much. They act so much like Ruby, this Diamond, even to the point of crying with the exact same sound. Fair enough. But yeah, they get served steak, and yeah, I could get used to it. Ball is just enjoying life out here, but we have some fellas. Apparently, there's a new bill in town called $20. Apparently, over in Bankville, where people live. Do they all just live in a gigantic safe or something? What? I'm curious. Like, but yeah, $20 bill just got introduced by the government, and they're trying to one up them this time. Like, if we win the show, they will be better. It is always an interesting little debate for how money perceives money. Like the $40 million is a lot of money, but like, does the $10 bill care? Or does that's always a debate. But yeah, eventually shopping bag and the torch end up debating because I remember that one time you tried to save the buzzer with me. That was really disrespectful. And then eventually a jellyfish jumps up and sticks itself to the shopping bag, and the torch actually manages to save it by throwing the ore over at the jellyfish and knocks it off. I was 100% expecting that paddle to go straight in the water. So like, yeah, I mean, you saved them, but at what cost? Surprisingly, no, it actually didn't. It actually was stuck around. Eventually, Ball ends up going to the club, and they invite the cheese block over to have some fun. And they do indeed have a relative amount of fun at the club. But hey, it's all looking good until it's not. But before that, we end up going into our final chapter, which is Hook on one side alongside freaking Ticket on the other side. So we end up having a pretty epic strategy on one end. It's looking pretty evened out. However, Ticket drops in one piece of popcorn, and Hook goes like, oh, popcorn. Oh my god, it's a popcorn. And they do the bit. Yo, should I grab it? Should I not grab it? We have of course the classic angel and devil thing. Which in this case fits perfectly for the type of character that Hook is. So yeah, they end up going over for the popcorn, which apparently has also been expired by 1 year. It expired 1 year ago, so you can't even fucking eat it. Which, by the way, yeah, I was wondering about that because, like, surely, like, the quesadilla is the quesadilla expired? What makes the food expired? Does a food character get expired? That's a very interesting question. Does the quesadilla get expired? Like, because I'm sure it's lived a lot of time. Right? Is it an expired food as well? Would it have mattered? Like, that's a very interesting question. But we have Ticket managing to win over there at the end, and then we have our final moment, our final debate. The person who made them lose the challenge is Hook, which means that Hook is immune. OMG! And Hook gets to vote, has to in 30 seconds decide who gets out. They have to vote on who gets out, and if they don't choose within 30 seconds, they are out. What do I think of this? Cool, but also, I mean, okay. Like, the thing about it is that, like, I don't mind contestant voting shows. Contestant voting shows are fine, or shows where characters get eliminated based on performance or on contestant, right, and all that jazz. And then you can tell stories better, right, because you can plan it out, plan out how long the character's gonna stay and everything, and it's all great, right? However, the problem is that this is exactly not that type of show. I'm sorry. No, this is the most. I'm sorry. This is the most viewer vote show of all time. You know, yeah, we got a couple disputes, but we don't need to. We're not really doing that much character development. Come on, right? Like there's not too much happening. Like, if any show should probably be a viewer voting show, I think this one is a massive like spot for that one, because like, yeah, we're doing this thing. Oh, Hook has to choose who gets eliminated. Yeah, but like this show isn't A, long enough, or B, like the characters haven't been interesting enough, to be honest, to like have us really care too much about this decision. Like, who is Hook gonna pick? I don't know. We've only seen Hook interact with like three of these people. And the only person Hook interacted with negatively is Quesadilla. So I'm guessing, I don't know, Quesadilla, because Hook goes like, "Oh, you didn't let me eat you." And it's like, wait, bro, I don't know. It's, I understand the drama, and it's classic reality TV drama, right? But like, this is an object show, bro. I don't know. Like, this show, in my opinion, should be viewer vote because it's the most. It's really viewer vote. Like, in just the way that it exists. Like it has that essence to it, and I think doing contestant vote here doesn't really work because it's like no, okay, no, really, 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 really. Let me. Who are the options? You can vote for torch, shopping bag, the trash bag, mouse, ball, and the quesadilla. What is Hook's relation? With mouse, I don't think they interacted with them at all. With the trash bag, I don't think they've interacted with them at all. Although I don't think they like them because nobody else likes them. Then with Bot, it's a whole supreme leader, whatever, but they not really spoken directly. With Torch, they were like buddies over in the challenge, but they didn't like the fact that Torch used them. With the shopping bag, they complained about them in this challenge, right? Because they dropped the baton on the floor. And in Quesadilla, they didn't let them eat them. Like, there's just one total, oh my god, there's just one total interaction total to base it off, right? And it's like, I don't know, especially with episode 1 and how little that focused on character interaction, pulling out here in episode 2 with an entirely focus where it's like, oh, we got to think of all of the character interactions, all two of them, and it's like, I mean, it's not quite there yet. So I wouldn't personally keep doing this. And by the way, we also end up with a friggin' with a with a cliffhanger. Honestly, it didn't look like Hook pressed the button, which is interesting. I mean, maybe they did, but they could have possibly just let themselves get eliminated. But eventually we have a ball get kicked out of the club at 6 in the morning. Because I don't know, the cheese block eventually left. And what did cheese block do? Cheese block went to resign from their job at the show, which is pretty interesting. They have I don't know what happened. No, I mean, they were relatively chilling at the club until suddenly they're not. But the fact that they fell asleep at the club probably implies that something happened. I don't. No, I don't. Yeah, no, it's impossible to know. It really is. Like, did something bad happen? There was a realization? I truly don't have that knowledge. I don't know. Maybe we just didn't like clubbing. We have a very BFDIA outro, but like a credit scene. By the way, one of the interesting things that I'm gonna say, to I guess close off a piece on the show because I've already talked for her quite a lot. But hey, it's one of the big new episodes, so we gotta talk about it a lot. Is that like I can't understand? Like, so it isn't wanted posters for criminals. Right, like the criminals get wanted posters, right? Like that's what they do. So I find it interesting how it's like we have a proper functional city. Like the show is a thing. People watch the show publicly. Public services know about the show, and you can work for the show. And this is a host, and it's an officially legal thing. But at the same time, it's being hosted by the wanted criminal, where you get $100,000 for catching them. Wait, what? Like I'm getting mixed signals here. Unless the wanted poster is by a criminal wanting them to get the host who's like, Buzzer didn't let me on the show. Instead, they approved that pesky little gold coin or whatever the hell they were doing, right? Like something like that. Because other than that, I don't really understand how you can be both a wanted criminal and also host a completely legal TV show that's really popular. Like, those just feel like two conflicting things, Because surely one leads to the other. Unless it's like we're in different countries, right? That is a thing that you could theoretically do. Because like we're in a city, but it seems like this freaking Sarah fella's taking a very long road trip to get there. So maybe it's like overall, maybe Buzzer committed a crime on that town that they're wanted on that town, and now we're on the bigger city, like maybe on this city, we're not a criminal and we don't know about the crimes, and then that's what happened. Maybe. Other than that, I don't really know. But yeah, overall, this show is starting to prop in a bunch of kind of random, interesting little arcs with like what's going on with what's going on with the host, right? There's some interesting things going on. We have a cliffhanger on who actually gets eliminated from this episode. Which is interesting. I personally would keep the show as a viewer vote. I think it makes way more sense for a show like this because, like, come on, if we, it's the vibe. There's not too much else to it. I can't really explain it in a much more cohesive way. Just kind of, it's got the vibe of a viewer vote, because like we don't look like we're doing super complex arcs. But other than that, I mean, it's good. Animation is excellent. Audio work is excellent. It at least definitely visually and audio fits the bill as being a big object show. Well, that gets a lot of views and gets a lot of discussion and talking points around it. I think it definitely fits the bill. And yeah, that is awesome insanity. Yeah, pretty awesome. I think, sure, if it's the name, why not? And yeah, good luck on the future. 4 month production time for this episode. Pretty good, to be honest. Like it's pretty good considering it was relatively high quality episode. And yeah, all right then. Next. All right, the next show that we're going to be chatting about is Battle for Mystery Surprise, or BFMS. So, BFMS was created by Indigo Guy 12, which is also the recommender of the very show. Because yet again, we've got so many recommendations to get to, and some of them are some of the recommendations are shows that are so long, I literally don't know where to fit them. I literally don't know how to get to it, but I'll try. But this is not one of them, thankfully. That's why I'm capable of covering it today. So, Battle for Mystery Surprise has had 5 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. There's not much that I can exactly say about it. I don't know if it's done. I don't think it's done, but we have to watch it. So let's start off watching the 5 episodes of it, starting with episode 1, titled "The New Guy." All right, then let's go. Let's watch it. Let's do all that jazz. All right, so that is BFMS 1, the new guy. And I think the best way to describe how I feel about this right now is I'm intrigued. I think this episode has shown me a lot of positive things that I'm quite interested in. Um, uh, so we have ourselves an 8-minute episode, but it's a relatively compact in terms of like a lot happens in these 8 minutes. It doesn't feel like we're wasting time, which means that it's paced surprisingly well. That I will say, yes, I think that this episode is paced surprisingly well. It manages to do a lot within a relatively short time allotment without feeling like there's too much rush going on, right? So, we get introduced to our character, to our cast. What do I think of our cast? Our cast is okay. It's a little bit okay. I'm gonna be honest. Having watched a lot of other object shows by now, it does start to peter on the mildly generic side. With like a disc, a charger, a peppermint, a candy peppermint. Like these are items that I've seen a lot of things be, but it's not really the show's fault. it's a more than suitable cast. And I like that this intro already, we start to proper settle in some dynamics, who's friends with who's the mean one, who are buddies, right? What are people doing, personalities, right? I like how the balloon just hovers around all this time. In terms of the show's animation, I think that it's relatively unique in the way that it looks, especially mouths. It ends up looking pretty different than the usual. I think it's solid. It was a very solid watch. It reminds me probably more of OBS than anything, but like in general, it manages to be pretty solid. Um, so we end up having a gigantic box fall out of the sky straight onto the bowling ball, who is really heavy, so breaks the box. And then our host is the television. Yes, the television that is always a co-host in object shows has now been promoted to just the actual host. Um, so the TV does the competition with 15 people, which means that we need to get divided into 3 teams of 5. We have a BFDI inspired intro. We don't mind those at all. And then we have ourselves our teams. So what are our teams? First team name is titled I Don't Know, featuring the pink thing that I don't remember. I think it's like gum. And then we've got the bucket, the cone, the bowling ball, and then the big old pumpkin. So this team is cool. I saw that they were using bucket as like a freaking they put chocolate milk on it and then just dunked it in, which is fun. That's a fun dynamic. So yeah, one thing I'm going to criticize relating to the next team is that the next team, which is titled Too Simple, is that like I dislike the fact that bowling ball is a pink bowling ball and gumball is a pink gumball. Those two could have been different colors and it would have been great. However, we just have 2 characters that look really similar for no reason. The average color of a bowling ball is not even pink. I don't know why it's pink, but like it's yeah. And but one and the other is fine. But when you combine them, it's kind of. But yeah, Team Too Simple is the gumball, the water bottle, the balloon, a bush, and flag. Don't know too much about this team, to be honest, but they seem to be relatively chill. And the final team is titled So Good because so all 3 teams end up being named after the joke, which is the team naming joke of somebody says a random thing and it's just the team name now. I'm just saying, not all of them have to be under that structure. We can do a little bit of like it's well last, but yeah. That is peppermint, the charger box. We've got obsidian, I think, a puzzle, jigsaw puzzle piece, and then the disc. This team is all right, and then we have our first contest: 10 minutes to decorate a room. Best decor wins after it'll get judged by our host TV. This challenge is very fine. It's actually pretty solid. Every team gets to come up with their own strategy. We've not got too many inter-team shenanigans, which personally I think is a bonus in a lot of these more tactical challenges, right? Because it actually promotes interesting ideas. You get to see everybody. There's one thing that I'm going to say, though. 10 minutes is a hilariously short amount of time. Like, the amount that these people get done in 10 minutes it would realistically take about 2 hours. I'm not going to lie. Because, you run to did you see how many trips to the store that, like, one team took? It was, like, 3. And oh, yeah, you could do that in 10 minutes while also building a bookshelf in 10 minutes, also making 4 books in 10 minutes. Also, running over to your house, which exists, by the way. The characters have houses. Do they? We're in a freaking grassy field, but like apparently they do. So they go grab a light and then come back and then slap it on, and in 10 minutes, by the way. Like it's it's an interesting situation. I'm not exactly 100% sure what is going on with the charger, because the charger has like a wire attached to it that's like I don't really know how this wire works. Is it like a tail? I don't. But yeah, apparently the worker of the store is this guy, and he goes like, "Yo, today everything's free. All right, don't worry about it. We need it for the challenge." So Yeah, apparently Bowling Ball is an artist, so they're going to be making a set of books. All right, but instead of the making process, let's talk about our finished products here, so that we can more realistically judge it. So the first team is too simple. So they made an indoor garden. However, the big mistake that they made is they destroyed the ceiling because their idea was, yo, we need sunlight, so we're gonna get rid of the ceiling. But problem is that if you get rid of the ceiling, it's not indoor anymore. It's not an indoor garden. It's just a garden with walls around it. It's just a fenced-off garden. It's not indoor garden anymore. Indoor garden is when, like, like, yeah, bro. But okay, I guess. I mean, I understand not having time to sort out like a glass panel or whatever, but it's like, yeah. Maybe try a different idea. Personally, I would have given this, I don't know, I would have given this a 3 out of 10. I see the vision, it just really doesn't work. Like it really doesn't work. Also, apparently the ceiling is worth 30 cents, which is a very low amount of cash. But yeah, then we've got ourselves the team. It's so good, which ends up making a ice cream stand, ice cream store. They paint the walls blue, which is nice. That's a good touch. To be fair, one of the things about the build is that it looks incredibly boring. So paint the walls and it's worth it. Immediately changes the vibe. And then they set up a little stand, and then they got a couple of ice creams, which is actually whipped cream. Uh-oh, that's their mistake. But whipped cream is still not that bad. Like, it's not as good as ice cream, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. And it is more than suitable. Also, how can the TV eat? Nobody knows. But it's very, very, very solid. 7 out of 10. I'm gonna have to agree. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. 7 out of 10 makes way more sense. And then the last team ended up building a library, which is a pretty bad idea because you need books. Like that's the thing about libraries is that you need a lot. If you don't have inventory, it doesn't matter, and you can't acquire inventory. Like it'd be easier to just make a grocery store, right, and then just grab any item you can from the store, rather than just like go make a library because you need books. So unless you already have a library you can take the books from, you're gonna need to improvise books. And in fact, the books that Bowling Ball makes, they're okay. I mean, they're not really good, but like they're made in 10 minutes. You gotta make like 5 of them in 10 minutes. Yeah, you gotta make like 2-page sketches, right? And it's like it makes more than enough sense to like why we end up having something like this. So yeah, I give it a not a lot out of 10. It's like a 2 out of 10. The chairs don't even work, bro. We can't even make chairs. But yeah, that means that the ice cream stand wins and the other two teams are up for elimination. I don't know if one person gets eliminated or if two people get eliminated. Wait, do we know? Hold on. Who you want to get eliminated in the pin comment below? You have 96 out. No, we don't. We don't know if we eliminate one from each team or just one in general. I mean, the show's 15 contestants, so what? That would be like 17 episodes if you consider that there's a rejoin and a final. Like that's more than okay, I think, for this show to do single elim. One thing, however, that it would absolutely change is that. Okay, I don't know how many votes this show gets, okay? But the thing is that we are spreading out our votes, I think, too thin with 10 people, right? Like, okay, the bigger shows like the T-Post and stuff, yes, they can put two teams up for elimination, but that's because they have like 20,000 votes. If we have like, in general, like I remember they did the system a couple of times where it was like you get one vote for both teams, but like they have so many votes where it just spreads out. But like in this case, I don't think this show has enough votes to really spread itself out across 10 entries, right? So I would absolutely just make one team be up for elimination in this case more than anything. At least until the teams get a bit smaller, because right now, I mean, it's a lot, especially considering it's episode 1 and the average information that we have on each character, not that much. So yeah. Anyways, episode 2 is titled Get Running. Okay, so that is episode 2 of BFMS Get Running. So, yeah, I mean, this show is a really easy watch. That's the best way that I could say about it. This show is a really, really easy watch. It's very BFDI core in the sense where it kind of just has some interaction, some things that happen, the challenge, and then we're all good. Like it's not too complex, basically. Like this is a show with a relatively big lack of complexity to like anything right now, because everything is relatively one note in the sense where it's like every arc, there's no arc. What is an arc? Like we've got. I just said, "Oh, Obsidian, I don't like you because you were mean, and then you did a mean thing." All right, and then it's like Peppermint's like, "Ooh, I want cookie now." There's not. It's a really simple like way of being. There's not too many thoughts going on, right? Even down to the elimination, which is very BFDI core. In the way that we got TV hosting the elimination whole o'clock in the ice cream stand with 23 votes. Many people get 0 votes, which again serves to, in my opinion, supplement the detail that we've just got way too many options on the table right now, and we keep having 2 teams up for Elam, which I don't think is a good idea, especially since only one is going home anyway. So what is the point of having 2 teams up for elimination? I don't know. That just yeah, I don't really know. But we end up having the eliminated contestant after all of this be Flagpole. Flagpole gets eliminated. Why does Flagpole get eliminated? I don't know. I honestly had no idea who was gonna go home. That's why I don't think I predicted it over when I was talking about episode 1. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult. It's a lot of people that are up for either. And then they go to the Hole of Losers at the whole o'clock. So we have ourselves the second challenge, 6,000 feet in the air. It is a simple it is color tiles. You know that game on like Hypixel and on Roblox? Yeah, it's color tiles. Color flashes on the screen. You got to go to it before the other colors disappear. If you're there, you are safe. Very simple. Never actually seen an object should do it though. Which is props for relatively unique idea, but it's pretty solid. I'm not 100% sure if this table, right? If the actual if the board of colors is itself like consistent, or if it isn't. But I don't know. It doesn't really matter that much. Overall, does this challenge get pulled off correctly? Because this is a very action challenge. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of people being close to each other and having to like kind of tug on each other, right? So like it's a difficult challenge to pull off animationally. Does this pull it off? I think it's okay. I don't think that we have a very good perspective, however, for how big the tiles are. In certain shots, they look really small and they can only fit like 1 person, but in certain shots, they look like they can fit 4, or some of them even do fit 4, right? So not too 100% convinced about that, but we end up having ourselves the challenge. Overall, I mean, the challenge is really pointless. Now that, like, if you think about it, because Balloony is just there, right? Like, they don't get disqualified or anything, but they just hover around above everything else. And while, okay, their team wins anyways, it's not like it exactly mattered, because, like, nobody was gonna outstand Balloony unless they popped him, which was not an idea that people ever grasped. But, like, yeah, Balloony was just gonna win if we were playing fair forever, right? So there really isn't too much to discuss here. But yeah, again, a couple of teams do some interesting tactics. Most of them try to. The Peppermint team decides to throw a cookie at the correct spot. That way, when Cookie runs over towards it, they can hitch a ride so that they get to the color faster. Smart idea. Enjoy it. It does imply that we can throw the cookie accurately every time, which is a bit. However, yeah. And then the other team sees that tactic and decides to take the tactic of using a paper cookie. And then that way, Peppermint runs over to them, right? And then falls off, which is smart. That's big brain plays, right? So that the fellas come over to them and we can cause ruckus, which is pretty smart. But as I said, none of it really matters because Balloony just wins anyways and was never going to lose. So we have the other 2 teams up for elimination, which have Puzzle Charger, Peppermint, Disc Obsidian, Pumpkin, Bowling Ball, Cone, Bucket, and Soap are up for elim. Yet again, we don't need 2 teams up for elim, but that's my only pet peeve about this show. It's really unnecessary. Who gets out? I mean, well, gotta be Obsidian, right? Obsidian's the mean one. Like, it's like, again, in a show that's so simple in the way that it works, Obsidian is the mean one trademark. There is nothing additional to their character, right? They don't have a positive trait to observe. So I mean, it gotta be Obsidian. Like it's come on. Um, I yeah, yeah. I mean, we saw that it is interesting to note our TV host's potential evilness. It's always interesting to gauge a host's evilness. TV felt pretty chill. I mean, challenge one was very chill, right? It was a proper challenge. But here in this challenge, we're starting like, oh, you're 6,000 feet in the air. If you fall, you die. Goodbye. Right? Like it's relative. It's really like this is a very brutal challenge. Comparatively speaking to the others, when like you could just drop down to I don't know like a second floor. Like it really wouldn't have been a big deal. But no, we have to fall and die, which is rather rather interesting. But yeah, keep an eye on the TV. Looking a little bit suspicious to me. But yeah. All right. These episodes are short, so these sections can't really be that long. Time for episode number 3 of BFMS, Peanut Thieves, which features TD Oliver. Let's go. Okay, so I have watched BFMS 3 Peanut Thieves. So, yeah, as it goes, I gotta say it's just a smooth experience. Like honestly, the things that I have to comment on here, not that many. It's a relatively smooth experience. Its animation style of this show is like it sets itself up with a relatively like a sort of a unique-ish style, but that manages a relatively unique aesthetic. It really doesn't do anything complicated, but at the same time it's not overtly simplistic either. Like it's fine. It's perfect. It's honestly I think that this is currently, as far as shows go that I've watched, it's like, it's the most pretty good. Like it's like it's all right in every category. It doesn't excel in a single one, but it's all right in every category, and it's completely fine. Like that's kind of the thing about it. It's really completely fine. It doesn't dare, but that makes it extra. But that means it can't fail, right? You know how they say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Sometimes if you just don't try like more out there experimental stuff, you're gonna end up fine anyways. You can play it safe and still have a show, right? And I think this ends up being a very good example of that. Okay, one thing that I will say, by the way, before I forget, I really like the idea of having the eliminated contestant from last time speaking as the next elimination, which is nice. I think that's enjoyable. But we have ourselves the challenge. No, not the challenge. We have ourselves the elimination, where we have our eliminated contestant being none other than Obsidian. Pretty obviously, they end up getting deleted out of the shape. Yes, they kind of half invented the idea of throwing the cookie. Yes, but no, they're just mean. Like they're irredeemably mean, and therefore they get out. Everybody else gets grape sauce as the prize, and then that also ends up becoming the challenge. One thing I'm gonna also say, by the way, that I've noticed is an interesting detail. Peppermint always has like an eye, like a line below the eye, which just makes her look like she's literally like hyper all the time. She looks like she's going crazy all the time because this singular line below her eye, and that is consistent with her design 100% of the time. So you know what? Fair enough. That's kind of fun. But we have our challenge, which is make a food that goes well with grape soda added onto it. The screen, the TV, and the judge will be judging the scores. And then the lowest two teams are up for elimination. Because two teams are up for elimination, why? We will never know. It doesn't make any sense. But we go and we begin now. So, yet again, this challenge paused in a very similar style to the other ones. This is definitely more similar to to the first challenge, but with some inter-team shenanigans going on, right? It's pretty much it's a very challenge focused video, right? Because like it's nice though. I don't mind, you know. At the end of it, like this feel like genuinely, this feels like default object show in the sense that it just feels like what if you did an object and then a show, you know? Like genuinely it doesn't do that much. We get a couple of interesting little character interactions. It starts to set up its world, but it's generally just risking it so little that it's funny. But yeah, with this episode though, we are starting to do the classic thing of setting up locations, which is very nice. Every object should start doing that, right? Like we start inventing spots that exist in the world, and now what we know, right? Like the store starts becoming a recurring location, right? That's good. Of the houses themselves that exist are recurring locations now, right? We can now the people have their own houses, and it is possible to go there. By the way, they're apparently over there. I don't. They probably just have a house on a mountain or whatever, right? So they see those are locations. Now we have this new location called Potato Island, right? Which is perfectly serviceable. And like you see, we're starting to set up these spots that are then starting to shape up our world. And then hopefully in a couple of episodes, we're gonna have a proper feeling. We're gonna have a world, right, with a lot of locations and things, which we can eventually call back to in future challenges, right? So it's doing that, which is very nice. You know, that's one of the most important parts of setting up an object show. Of that early batch of episodes, it has to set up the world, and it's currently doing that. And yeah, we have ourselves the challenges. So, cookies is what the team with jelly, no, not jelly, with peppermint decides to do because it's peppermint. Peppermint always has cookies on their mind, um, uh, and that is indeed what they end up doing. I'm just gonna say, apparently this is good. Like, apparently they give the cookies a good rating. Really? I am a little bit. Like, no, I don't believe that grape jelly with cookies is good. Nah, then no way. It's like it's just if you pile on like completely different types of sweetness, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Fake, fake news. Okay. Then the other team ends up trying chips with grape by just testing out stuff at the store, right? Which I mean is pretty smart. And they're like, "Yo, let's get some chips and shit." Right. So then again, they go get some from the Potato Island because they don't serve potatoes at the store apparently, but they only serve bad chips. And if the bad chips were good, imagine how good chips would be, right? So apparently, Potato Island it rains down potato chips, which is fun, I guess. Which the bucket catches. I like how that's a recurring detail about the bucket. So yeah, that's all. That all goes solid and they end up getting, I think, an 18 out of 10, and they end up actually winning the challenge. By the way, our side guest is Norway, which is voiced by TD Oliver. I did also notice in the other, I think the last episode, that one of the recommended characters was Norway Flag by TD Oliver. I am sensing some Norway pride. I am sensing pride here. I am starting to feel it. But we end up having something pretty well. The TV, for some reason, has to use the Munchinator 2000 because they can't eat normally. Yes, that is true. I don't know how they managed to eat with the first one, I guess. But I mean, maybe they didn't eat it. They just felt it. They like fucking slammed the ice cream on their face. I was like, wait, this wouldn't be how a splatter of ice cream on my face would be. That's like whipped cream, right? So I guess that's how they did it. And then the last team decides to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Makes perfect sense, right? However, they don't have peanut butter. Peanut butter is not a thing, so they have to go get peanuts, and go make a homemade peanut butter over in a blender. Which, by the way, I did enjoy the gag of placing the hand of trying to get the peanut off of the blender that was still on, and then you just get the shot of Gumball respawning. Yikes, bro! Imagine that, Dev. Oh my god. Ooh. But they end up being being the worst performing team because like they didn't make a very good peanut butter. It was a little bit messy, and also the peanuts might have been expired. We don't really know, but they may or may not have been expired. But yeah, they don't get an epic team and they end up losing. So then that means that the team with the 14 out of 20 and then the team with the 8 end up being both up for elimination because two teams are up for elimination. Stop! Please. Why? The chat, I don't know. No, I'm sorry. It's just because it feels so. It's such a like a team. Majority of the time, two teams have been doing well, which is like okay, makes sense. One team do badly and go up for elimination. The other team is fine. But like a team is doing fine and losing. And it's like, bruh. But whatever. Who's getting out here? I don't really know. So like the thing about the Pepperman Charger team is that they really don't fail. They don't fail the challenge. They do perfectly fine. Right? They have a little bit of a bolder move, but they survive. And then there's the team with Bush Water Bottle Gumbo Balloon. Okay, so I don't know. Who grabbed the expired peanuts? I don't remember. Was it Gumball? Yeah, it was Gumball. I mean, Gumball got the expired peanuts, although they were getting rushed out of there. Like remember, because the other team they had the barricade. By the way, the inter-team shenanigans in this episode were perfectly serviceable. By the way, I didn't really mention them, but hey, there was some chasing, block off the wall, right? Like again, I really don't think there's too much to chat about it. It's relatively simple stuff, but Gumball the Bush. The Bush could get eliminated, but could the Bush get out? The Bush has been pretty boring, but I do like the fact that like Bush makes a good dynamic with Balloon, as Balloon is the most mobile character, while Bush is the least. So then Balloon kind of carries around Bush to wherever we're going. That's a fun little friendship. I'm gonna say Gumball gets out though. I'm gonna say Gumball gets out. Technically screwed up the challenge the most. Out of everybody by grabbing the wrong thing, even though it's not really their fault, and then dying trying to make the peanut butter better. So yeah, I guess they get out. So then apparently we end up having Disc go to Potato Island to fetch off some potato chips for their store. And in the meantime, that means that they're currently not at their store. Interesting enough, people have just been hanging out over at like where even are they at the store? Where are they? Where is Puzzle and the Charger? I don't really know. But all right then. Let's see if they even get back in episode 4, A Battle for Mystery Surprise. Unidentified flying contestants. Let's go. Alright, so that is episode 4 of BFMS, Unidentified Flying Contestants. So, this is also, if you think about it, a very BFDI-esque episode, but in a different way than usual. This is a BFDI-esque episode in the sense where we have a kind of chaos ensue. We just kind of have chaos ensue, everything falls apart, and then things get way more complicated from there. But we start off here with Disc getting to Potato Island. Remember, they got lost trying to get there. However, unfortunately, they get teleported to the elimination area right as they're about to cross the bridge to Potato Island to do Whole Clock. Whole Clock in fact happens, and we have the eliminated contestant be none other than Bush with way more votes than anybody else, 11 compared to 4. Yeah, I got this wrong. I think I predicted Gumball to get out. Yeah, I guess Bush is just disliked as a contestant. They don't have too much mobility. They don't care that much about the competition, and they also just haven't really done that much. So I guess that makes sense as an elimination. I personally don't quite get the Bush hate, but like it's sure, that alright, I'll give it. So Balloon starts getting very sad because, of course, they lost a friend that they've been carrying around the entire time. But now we have our challenge, which is get to Potato Island. We are using Potato Island a lot. But the goal is to get to Potato Island. However, there is no boat. There's no bridge. Get there in any way possible, as long as your entire team gets there to Potato Island. So, We end up starting there. The recovery machine is way back, so don't be dead. And we try our best here to do the challenge. The teams have a couple of ideas that are debatably functional. We have the idea of balloon carrying people across the water. Yes, correct. That would be a theoretically good idea. Because this is kind of you don't have to touch the water. However, of course, the negative is that it takes a while because you have to drag your entire team one by one, right? You have to make a trip, then make a trip back, then make a trip, then make a trip back, then make a trip, then make a trip back. Like it would be a while. So if another team were to invent a faster strategy, it would be more complicated. And also the problem that eventually ends up spacing them out of the idea is that they have to is that balloon is super easy to pop. Anything that touches the balloon, pretty much, it pops, right? And then the other team can, of course, just see that and immediately throw shit at the balloon. A balloon doesn't seem to have enough mobility to be a dodger, especially when holding people, right? Or like when distracted. So it ends up being quite a little bit of a complication for balloon. And now I'm surprised that nobody has the idea of trying to actually just make a boat. It's kind of a, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting idea that nobody actually ends up having. But a couple of people try to swim on the pumpkin, which is a valid strategy, right? So they end up doing that to test out if it works, and it does work. Pumpkin Bucket is indeed able to bring everybody along. No, just a pumpkin. I seen Pumpkin Bucket because of the fucking Halloween show I watched. But sorry, a pumpkin, right? But now we end up having a little bit of an issue, which is very rightly pointed out. You cannot have everybody on the team die. If everybody on the team dies, realistically, it's unlikely for somebody to recover you. Right? I mean, the other team could just not recover you. So that's valid. I will say, however, that it's wrong. That's incorrect, right? Because like the way that the recovery box works is that as long you need to have you revive everybody in one go. There's no like team specific. So even if both teams were so like even if one team died and like I'm not going to recover them. If then somebody on your team died, then you're going to need them to get recovered anyways, right? And then it ends up being far more complicated. So, yeah, however, Cone the Sun stay back. I have no idea what the tactic was for Cone to get to Potato Island otherwise. But yeah, then Peppermint's team decides, hey, we got a superpower, which is Peppermint's capability of getting anywhere however they want, which means that they will which means that they will try launching a cookie to the island. That way Peppermint is going to see it goes to the island, and then rush off to it. And then theoretically, everybody can go and get to Potato Island. This tactic debatably works. Yeah, I mean, it works. However, unfortunately, the problem with Peppermint Superpower is that it is a super speed, right? Like, it is a speed that's way too fast. So everybody getting there can't hang on to the speed, and pretty much every object proceeds to die, which means that nobody's there. However, somebody's on Potato Island, but everybody else is gone. That ends up being quite a little bit of a mess, right? There's like, who's going to recover them? Well, remember, Kern was chilling on their team, but then they see that 30 people died, and it's like, oh, my team must have died again. So it's like, okay, I guess I'll recover them. However, it turns out that they recovered the wrong team, right? And they're like, shit. So then what do they try to do? They just try to launch somebody back into the respawn box, which ends up being, if they're stuck in there, I mean, there's pretty much the same amount of them not dying. However, it turns out that actually, if you're an alive person in the respawn box, then you are not dead. No, that's illegal. So the box decides to explode, and it causes a massive explosion. A ginormous explosion that causes a tsunami that murders everybody currently hanging onto the water, except for the freaking the bowling ball, right? Which ends up doing it. So then Gumball and Water Bottle Gumball and Water Bottle end up getting yeeted off by the tsunami, like straight onto the island. Bowling Ball ends up managing to swim there, but the explosion ends up causing the challenge to end prematurely. with the freaking team with the two people on it winning. I don't remember the names; they weren't memorable enough. They were just sentences. But yeah, and then the other two teams are up for elimination. Now, what did I think of this challenge? This challenge was, yeah, it was a little bit more risque than the other ones, but yet again, the show is very challenge focused, right? Which is nice. You know, I don't. Character interactions are cool, but this show is very much so, challenge focused, right? Like 90% of the episodes are the challenge themselves. Personally, I like watching challenges in object shows. That's like the main point of them, no? So seeing a show that's more so just that is like perfectly serviceable. That is no problem with me, sorry. You know, like we chilling with that. Um, but yeah, I'm curious to how like the landscape is going to be in the next episode, if we're going to start to getting some changes, kind of like on BFTA. You know, people start living in Yoyo land and they start looking different because of fucking Yoyo fruits or whatever, right? But yeah, who's getting out? Who is getting out? Um, whew. The people on that lower team are just really not that interesting right now. Soap just isn't interesting as like a character. Cone is even debatably even less. Okay, Cone it just isn't that interesting as a character, and they also made a explosion to the recovery machine by launching somebody back up there, which is also mean. So I'm gonna say that Cone gets out. All right. By the way, I still absolutely believe that two teams up for elimination in a show this small and with not that many votings, so not that much voting power, I think that is just not a very that's just not a very smart idea. But like I've blabbered on about that for long enough to where you already understand. um so yeah, and it's time for the fifth and latest episode of BFMS, which is titled The Worst Day of Bowling Ball's Life. It's also the longest episode, so let's hope it's a good one. All right, so that is BFMS 5, which is an interesting little video. It is a little bit more out there than some of the previous episodes. Mainly because of the situation that we're in, means that we actually do an episode with a little bit of a different situation rhetoric to it. So remember, people have been dead. So first of all, we got to check on the people in the hole, because people in the hole didn't die because they're in the hole. They're basically in a bunker, right? So they've just been hanging out, bush, obsidian, and flagpole in the relatively crummy space. But you know, some of them have managed to dig their way into a room or whatever. But they try various. They have a chat as the explosion happens, and then we end up having those three fellas, that you know they're starting to get pretty sad because we have you know some shenanigans going on where it's like, oh, the TV isn't coming back, because we do seem to be. Are we playing in real time? Hold on, wait a minute. When did BFMS 4 release? BFMS 4 released 6 months ago. This released 3 months ago. So yeah, we are roughly playing in the avenue of real time, which is interesting. But we end up having some notes here. The eliminated contestant will host the episode, and that's what they end up doing. But this episode does a couple of things. You know, it introduces us to some characters. I like what this show is doing, which it's starting to construct gags. Constructing gags is something that is very important for a BFDI-esque show to do, right? So in a situation where you do have something like a box falling from the sky multiple times, the fact that it falls on bowling ball every single time actually does matter. Like that, like you think, oh, that's just a random gag, but no, doing that gag is a good thing. Like it's a thing that you want to do because you start constructing guys, and then the show picks up more of an identity of itself because this thing happens in this show, and it's funny when it happens in this show, right? So these are the types of things that are useful. So they end up picking up the eliminated contestants, and they end up hosting the elimination as all of the other contestants are dead. I like how all of both the intro and the whole clock are scuffed because it's not TV hosting it. But we end up having the the contestants who get eliminated end up being with 13 votes. Cone, which makes sense. Goodbye to Cone. Um, they absolutely threw the challenge. They didn't just throw the challenge; they threw Earth, like the entire surrounding area. They threw that. But then the new contestants decide to set up a challenge, and they relatively unanimously actually end up managing to decide, the elimination place is gone. The whole store, so make a new one where we can host eliminations. And I'm surprised that that the combination of Obsidian Bush and Flagpole isn't abysmal, and they just end up bickering all the time. I'm kind of shook that they just kind of have conversations and don't disagree the entire length of time that they're not gonna lie. But yeah, one team and only the people included in the challenge itself will be possibly up for elimination, which is interesting. However, Bowling Ball's the only one on their team, right? So they end up getting a new guest to balance things out, a guest character who maybe or maybe not is only available in this episode. Stickman! Ooh, who ends up teaming up with Bowling Ball for the episode. I like Stickman. Stickman has exactly that type of uncanny, socially not adept, like sort of, yeah, it's like that uncanny guy who's like, yo, I don't know why you talk this way or why you act this way, but like it's very direct with the sentences, kind of, yeah, doesn't act very socially aware, but and look, if we gotta work with them, we gotta work with them, and they are actually there to help out for the challenge. They're not really doing a saboteur. They'll just do pretty much what Bowling Ball is ideating. So we end up ideating the idea of, the old elimination place is doing okay. I mean, one of the walls broke down, and they're not really sealing, but other than that, like, we're relatively chill. So yeah, that's true. So they go, we can fix it. And I mean, they fix it to a relative degree, but yeah, they end up having a lot of time spending just fixing the walls, right? Replacing the blue paper slips, which Stickman has. And again, it works to an extent. It's just that it's not really a. It's not very good because you know what the other team does? They just make a wooden little batch, right? They ever do it. They make some wooden chairs, a wooden table. I mean, they steal the wooden table, but like they make some wooden stuff with the couple of trees that survived, right? And it's like it's not very good. But first of all, it works better as an elimination area, I guess, because people can sit down on each chair, and then there's a host in the middle, right? So that makes more sense already. However, they do it completely outdoors. I mean, they don't need to worry about walls, they don't need to worry about ceilings, they don't need to worry about lighting, they don't need to worry about any of that. They just have to place the things and then they're done, right? Which is a smart way to approach the challenge because they get to more properly, like they don't have to worry about this stuff. When you decide to pick, we're gonna renovate the old thing, you have to fix the walls. You have to think about the ceiling. You have to think about what's broken rather than ignoring it and just making something, right? So that's why the other team ends up winning, because the other team just focuses on the base but removes the surrounding. A team that starts off with a broken surrounding has to fix the surrounding before they can make the base, and that ends up being an issue, right? So yeah, there's this episode I think is cooler than the other ones. I'm not gonna lie, I like this episode. It does of course deal with lesser characters, however, that first of all allows for a more immediately cohesive narrative, but it also it started to pull off a little bit of some more gags that weren't quite happening, right? Because again, I'm saying like stuff like episode 2 and 3, they were very one note, right? Not episode 2 and 3, like episode 1 and 2, they're very one note in the sense that I like a no. I like the no. I don't mind it. As I said, it was a very free flowing watch. Like I had zero complaints, but it also wasn't. It wasn't breaking the narrative. Like to just watch it is great. To do something like this is not really right, because here I have to actually comment on what's happening, and what's happening is really not that much, right? But in this episode, we end up having some more out there gags. I like the stuff with the splinters, and then you show the overly detailed hand, right? As I said, I like what we're doing with bowling ball. I like Stickman's just general vibe as kind of a weirder character in what is a very normal cast. There's not too many weird people in the cast, right? So that's a that's enjoyable as well, right? Like in general, things are they're pretty solid, and I also like that we start to have some more interesting things with like the fact that the water bottle apparently is only alive when there's water within them. However, it doesn't have to be water; it can be literally any liquid, which means that if you place in the salt water, it makes them angry or salty. Haha. Or if you place milk, it makes them stronger because milk is strong, right? Good for the bones, right? Which is really interesting. Which obviously makes me wonder, yo, what happens if you put other liquids in them? I need to know. I need a knowledge of what every liquid does. No, I'm joking, but like it does. It's a question now. Um, but like, yeah, that's a thing. Like, would soda make them hyper? Would beer make them drunk? I don't know. But then we end up having but again, it's nice little development, like it's nice little development where the characters start to pick up life when it's something like that. And even though it's the most basic arc of all time, uh, Balloon coming down there to hang out with Bush in the Hole of Losers, and to just chat because they can fly down there. It's cute, okay? It's cute. I like it. Um, so then we end up having the final product. As I previously said, the walls getting fixed is the only thing that team had the time to even do. Okay, all right. One thing I'm gonna say: how the hell did the milk survive an explosion? Like the only thing there was nothing else on the show. To be fair, like I like the thing about the milk, but there's no way the milk should have been there. But yeah, um, uh, eventually that team loses the respawn box. Come back, everybody comes back. We end up having the reasoning. We end up having the fella being up for elimination, and then we have our vote to eliminate. Bowling Ball and Stickman are up for elimination. Really now, that is very interesting. I mean, it makes sense to only have the characters who compete in the challenge be up for elimination, but Stickman being up for elimination is hugely unexpected because it's like if is Stickman gonna stick around? Oh my god. I didn't mean to take that. Like, is Stickman gonna stick around? Because I thought that this was, a temporary guest appearance, right? And then eventually we're gonna dip, and then Bowling Ball was gonna chill. However, the fact that you can vote out Stickman is really interesting because, like, I'm curious if you voted out Bowling Ball, Stickman would remain, right? I don't. Oh, God, that's actually a really interesting question because the thing about it is that I think Bowling Ball would get out here because, like, Stickman was funny. Like, that's the thing about Stickman. Stickman was funny. I think Stickman is the better vote because I am 100% conscious of the risk that if Bowling Ball gets eliminated, Bowling Ball and Stickman get out, right? And if we vote as Stickman gets out since they were already getting out as a guest. So then Bowling Ball remains, basically, right? But I think Bowling Ball's getting out here because, like, they were in general less funny than Stickman, who was a novelty, right? Stickman's a novelty and not negative like how Bowling Ball was. I think Bowling Ball has to get out surely, which is very unfortunate because yeah, we might have an accidental double elimination going on here because I'm not 100. I don't think Stickman's sticking around. I don't think Stickman acts as a rejoin. I just think Stickman was here for this challenge and they're gonna leave. Right, that's my presumption, because like they haven't introduced themselves to their team or anything. Like it just, I think they're leaving anyways, so we should vote to eliminate them rather than Bowling Ball, which actually does hurt the team. But yeah, overall, this episode, nice little change of pace. We're taking a couple more risks in what has overall been a show that, yeah, it's the best way to describe the show. It is very, very serviceable. It is very, very fine in every category. Audio is solid. Um, uh, like the character, they have some unique voices. They're all very listenable. They're all good. It's mixed well, which is not. It's not. Hey, even big shows sometimes mix pretty badly. So it's mixed well. The audio is good. Songs are good. Everything's good, right? Um, and then animation is also very solid. It has this unique little style, separated from the rest. It's always pretty clean. It never does a show off shot, but again, it never looks bad, right? And then same thing goes with the writing. It never shows off any unique ideas. However, it also never, by not doing that, it never actually strays away from just being a nice little fun watch, right? So this is what this show is. It is very standard. Um, in a positive way. It's weird because I sound so negative. Don't I sound negative right now? Because it's like I'm just going, oh, yo, this show's standard. This show's normal. It's like no, normal's fine. Normal is okay, I promise. I'm just saying. But this episode strays a little bit away from the normality, and I like that. Um, because while it's very comfortable to have a standard show, sometimes it's like take a couple more risks. It might get boring otherwise. But I don't know. We'll have to see what happens in episode 6 as we return to normality, right? Of characters being in their like the full teams and everything, right? But yeah, please make one single elimination, like one no, not like one team out for elimination, please. That's a one. That if I can make one request, just one request. Make one team up for Elam, not two. Okay, if I can do that, if I can do that, make one team up for Elam. It's way better. Two teams up for Elam makes the entire time nearly pointless because one team is always gonna, the one team excels, and then there's the question of like who's better. Because most of the time, one team does well and goes up for Elam anyway. Like it's like come on, 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 come on. Okay, that's all. Um, is there a next segment? I guess I'll have to see. Let's do that. All right, the last thing that we're going to be taking a look at in this episode is another request. It is a one episode request, however, it's a monstrous episode. About a week ago or 8 days ago, Finding the Awesome Planet or Battle for Awesome Planet, it depends where you look. I cannot understand which one is which. Are they the same show? Are they different shows? It's impossible to truly know. They're the same, but also different. Created by King of Tunes, which is a fellow YouTube creator with 558 subscribers. Finding the Awesome Planet, Episode 1, Act 1, Building a New Beginning. Okay? Let's watch it. Let's go. Okay, so I have watched Finding the Awesome Planet, Episode 1, Act 1. Those different things? I feel like that's just a different way to say episode, but okay. Um, Building a New Beginning. Okay, so this is we gotta get the elephant out of the room, right? This is by a long shot. Okay, I think the slowest show in term like the slowest pacing for a show that we have seen on the catch up yet. It is just that it just goes so slow, both in the way that it literally plays out, right? Like with the animation, with the VA, right? That's already slow. However, it's also just impeccably slow when it comes to the writing as well. Like it writes a lot of stuff within it. However, the answer is why, right? Like, no, the answer. And the question is why does it what happens for this show to end up as long as it is? So I think one of the main reasons is that this show acts out in a slideshow format, right? Where it's sort of there's very little fluid movement, right? Like the amount of animation, like properly speaking, in this animation, there's not really that much like fluid animation, right? It's mostly one frame after the next. We do our shenanigans, right? And then, however, this just in general makes it so that one frame is on screen for a longer period of time than you usually expect if you were doing fluid animation, right? Because with fluid animation, you get more properly, right? Like it flows nicer from one thing to the next thing. Meanwhile, in a non for like in a slideshow format, it's gonna just be on the images for longer, which makes it longer. Secondly, is again, as I'm saying, it's also just written really slow, right? Like, it's like we get a lot of specifics on a lot of stuff. We get a one by one character introduction, or the challenge. We end up seeing every character go about it, right? Like we see a lot, which. It's fine. It just makes stuff go slow, right? And then it's like, okay, sure, the show is slow. Okay, is it um a bad sign for the show? In my opinion, at this current speed, it's maybe mildly. Not gonna lie, it like drones on mildly, right? Like I don't mind watching any individual section, but I think watching a 40-minute episode of this gets a little bit near the end. Start going like, okay, I get it, right? Like, it's the type of show where I mean, I haven't tried it, but it just looks like it would work. Like, it would be a better watch on 1.25 times speed. Like, it ends up like it needs a little chop down of the silence. Um, so yeah. Some other technical details. So, I was warned about this, but yes, the music is indeed a bit loud. It's ends up being louder than the voices a decent portion of the time. It's not mixed great. With the speed of the show, however, I'm not gonna lie, that almost accidentally worked because like if a moment was ever uninteresting, it just ends up like working across his favor because of the music. At least it can jam out to the music, right? which is better. Like, the problem with a show having a slow scene, having this slow pacing to it, is that if for some reason we don't care about one thing that's happening, or it's boring, right, it ends up like it draws long, right, instead of a faster paced show where, if something's uninteresting, we'll be done with it relatively soon, right, instead of a different scene where it's like, we're gonna be here for the long haul. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely recommend the music to get improved. It works. I can still listen to the show mainly because the voices are pretty clear, right? Like, there's like, to be fair to the voice actors, they have very clear microphones, so they're very clear voices, which means that even throughout the music, I can still hear them pretty clearly. However, yeah, lower the music next time, absolutely. Um, so we have ourselves the premise of the show, starting off with our, I guess, introductory advertisement here by Bottle of Water. No, Bottle of Water, by Glass, Water Glass, who ends up going, yo, what's good? This is my show, Finding the Awesome Planet. So we have gathered here our contestants, or 12 contestants here, to win two prizes: $12 million and Awesome Planet. So, let's talk about it. So, $12 million is $12 million. That's a lot of money. However, you not only get $12 million, you get Awesome Planet. Okay, now, what is Awesome Planet? We eventually find out. Awesome Planet, sorry. Awesome Planet is apparently a artificially made planet that has a luxury resort in it. That's about it. Did we need a whole planet? We needed a whole planet. Like, what? The whole planet is a luxury resort? That's a crazy planet. But yeah. and it seems like the premise of the show is that you are going to go to the awesome planet at the end of it, right? And that's like your final challenge. You get to the find the awesome planet in space. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? So we end up having some interesting shenanigans with like confessionals. So confessional, shadow confessional. Confessionals are great. Especially in a show like this where it's already acting out slow. At least we get to hear character thoughts. We get to more properly digest what a character is doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, instead of having to guess, which is one of the positives, at least of the slower pacing of the show. Um, so that's all pretty nice. Then we also have the elimination. So the elimination that they do indeed exist. So let's get here into our we have our intro. Yeah, our intro is relatively chill. There's not much to the intro actually. Surprisingly enough, right enough, the intro just kind of happens. You'd expect this to have a crazier intro, but no, really, the intro just kind of happens. We have some people who go to the respective location. The airship lands by. This is the airship that goes from challenge location to challenge location, and then we have ourselves some introductory moments. So we have the contestants of the show. First of all, by the way, Waterglass lied to literally everybody. Apparently, they sent to each contestant a different leaflet that they were going to accept. That they accept to enter the show. However, it's like, I mean, we're in the show now. It's $12 million in a planet. I might as well. Like, it's a fucking planet, so we might as well sign up for it now. So yeah, I mean, fair enough. We have Milk. Milk is the nerdy character. Sort of tackled from II core, but very good with machinery. So that's like the type of character that we have. Very smart. And gonna try to use her smarts to win the competition, which is fine. Then we have Army, pure sportsman. Not too much to say about him. He's just pure sportsman. He's pretty fast. He's pretty agile. He gets stuff done quickly. Yeah, he's gonna do some. And he's in general kind of cool. They got P. P. Well, sorry. P is the ultra scaredy cat character. In the meantime of the show, they don't speak. At least they either don't speak or they don't want to speak. However, they do have a sign that that they can talk with if they absolutely need to say words. But yeah, they're extremely scary. No, they're no, well, don't know about that. They're extremely scared. They're extremely clumsy. And yeah, they end up probably being the punching bag later of the show. They have this one pose that with both of their arms being held together that they use literally 90% of the time for this character. We eventually learn that there's gonna be like the whole idol system. There is the painting over there does look like a globe idol. But it'll be interesting to see. There you go. Coffee cup. Coffee cup is. What is Coffee Cup? I didn't quite catch him. Oh god, Coffee Cup is like they got into a fight during the challenge, but they didn't seem that like mean or aggressive. They're fine. I guess just don't provoke them. I guess they just don't provoke them, but they're relatively neutral. Um, so yeah, they're a relatively neutral character, but don't provoke them. They got Face. Face is like the jock kind of character. Like, I'm tough, and I'm the toughest guy that there is. That's like that character. We end up having them be the best of the best. You see, it's like you see this scene right at the beginning where Face introduces them to how they are, right? Like this scene, if it was any other show, it lasts itself like 20 seconds, okay? This is a 20-25 seconds scene for a Face showing off, right? Literally, I think if you gave this to any other show, you would probably have that scene occur in about 8 seconds. Like put most scenes can very reasonably get shot up by like 10 seconds. And it's like, you think, oh, well, 10 seconds is 10 seconds. Well, if it's every scene, that starts stacking up, And it's like, yeah, do I want the show to go faster? Mildly. Mildly faster, okay? Like I don't mind it that much, but I think it does need to pick itself up a little bit. It needs to strive more for the 30 minutes than the 40. All right, but let's keep it moving. Who else do we have here on our cast? We have the Toothbrush. Toothbrush is the classic girl, right? The girl character. He's like, oh, girl power, and shout out to the girls. They're so much better than the boys. I like fashion and hating on boy. So yeah, that's that character, the Toothbrush. I like how like toothpaste is a threat to her. I think that's interesting. But yeah, then we have Chocolate Cake. Chocolate Cake is the I don't care ish character. They're just gonna they're gonna be there, right? It's $12 million. They're gonna fight, but they don't really care that much about being there. They're on their way out. They got Ruler. Ruler is kind of tough guy. It's like tough guy that's not really that tough of a guy. They're like medium tough guy. They're not the ultimate one like the face, but they're not like the ultra fair one. They're a tough guy. Yeah, but they're pretty tough. Like they can confirm, I guess, that their toughness is more than the average. Then we have Mirror. Mirror is like the very tough one. As like trying to be tough, but also has teddy bears and plushies and stuff, which is cool. Yeah, she's kind of psycho. I'm not gonna. She's kind of weird. Like, she's like, yo, I'm like, I like teddy bears and shit, but I'm getting into a fight. I like that. I like fights. I like beating people up, except for P. I don't like beating PP up, right? And then we've got Shampoo. Shampoo is just the very bubbly, sweet little contestant that you just know she's getting taken advantage of. In fact, she already is. Which is unfortunate, but like she's the bubbly one. She's like yay, and she's adorable. I really like her. She can apparently, when she's super excited, make the shampoo spew out from above, which is very nice. Then we have a Sapphire, by the way. Sapphires who eventually takes advantage of the shampoo, or at least they say they are, because they want to make allies in the game to then eventually let them go. That's the idea. But yeah, Sapphire is the kind of the ultimate strategist, probably going to be the villain of the series, just trying to just pretty much trying to outmaneuver everybody socially by kind of acting slick and stuff, which presumably probably might get him pretty far. We're gonna need to see. I kind of like him. I'm not gonna lie. The soothing voice, soothing personality style. It's enjoyable to watch these type of characters in reality shows. And then there's Clipperboard, which is a clipboard, apparently a famous actor slash celebrity personality that was there for an acting, that was gonna do a speaking at an acting school, but then of course this was actually what they were doing. So yeah, they ended up being here as a famous personality. They were trying to hide the personality, but it didn't quite work. So we end up having ourselves, yet again, the very drawn out reintroduction to the contestants this time. That is $12 million and the island. We have Cereal Bowl, which is the third in command, I guess, because TV is the second in command. Shout out to having TV as a co-host. Every show does it. But anyways, we then have some fellas. One thing that I'm gonna complain about these confessions, okay? This is the least relevant thing of all time, but it is a massive pet peeve I had. I hate that static screen that they used to swap out from one session to the next. You know why? Not because I dislike the static. It's just I dislike specifically that static video that they use, because it is an inconsistent speed. It starts off fast, and then right as it's about to switch out, you see it stops swapping, and it's really annoying because it looks like it's lagging every single time it swaps, and it's like, oh. right? And another example of this show's pacing being slow. So you know that scene where people are saying, I am going to and it swaps out from character to character, right? Bring it on because I'm gonna take the plasma on it and plan it also myself, right? Like that. If it was a faster show, I'm telling you, any other show wouldn't have a static every single time. You would just have the static for from the start of the start to the finish, but then like have the swaps and not have the static in it because it's kind of it just runs faster and it gets the point across in the same way. But this show adds the static every single time, and it adds on about 15 seconds, right? Like, again, this scene by scene makes the show longer, and like. Again, I don't mind. It's just I do think that it should improve. Like I think that I don't mind, but people will. We're in brain rot era. Okay, like it's interesting. And then we have ourselves the system of the show. So we're very reality show esque. So this show acts entirely on challenge performance, okay? Depending on how you perform during the challenge, you will earn points. Depending on your ranking. So like every challenge is proper down to the details as well, which is interesting. At least every individual challenge, a lot of them will probably be in teams, especially early on. They're going to do teams, right? But like, we have interesting. And then we have the bottom three after the bottom 3 points. You gotta remember that your points do carry over from a section to the next, right? Which from challenge to challenge, which is important because like if you're down low, you're gonna stay down low, right? Unless you can pick yourself back up, and a high performer is gonna stay high. But then the challenge winner ends up voting you out alongside maybe getting an advantage. It kind of depends. Maybe top one gets an advantage, but and then second place, and then the challenge winner gets to vote the person out. So this is interesting because it gives massive importance to challenge performance, like more than usual. Like in general, it's not just like, oh, you're safe if you win the challenge. No, if you win the challenge, you get to pick who goes home. You get massive advantage for probably multiple challenges that you will not be up for elimination. Like it's a big deal to win challenges. Winning challenges is important. Like we actually do need to proper lock in here. Throwing is not something that we should probably be doing, but yeah, no official teams, but some challenges may have teams. Then we have some fellas to start our first challenge. I like how Shampoo scared of flying. This is gonna be a thing in every episode. But anyways, the challenge here ends up being construct a vehicle. Okay, construct a vehicle that can fly. We will then make the show will apparently make a perfect replica of that vehicle, of that flying machine, and then at the end of it, for the final challenge, which is to find the awesome planet in space, you will have to use your flying machine. So that is interesting, isn't it? Because this challenge has an active heavy importance to how you may actually approach winning the show, because you're gonna want to make a very mobile, good flying machine, right? Because you want to have an opportunity in the finale, right? You don't want to screw it up. However, that also impacts your challenge performance here, right? Because at the end of the day, this is just a challenge of speed. You want to act it out as quickly as humanly possible. However, if you act it out as quick as humanly possible, then that means that you won't have a great flying machine for the finale later, which means that those people that actually win right now are harming themselves later for the sake of winning right now. Which does make a very interesting tactical idea. It kind of depends, however, on how important the flying machine actually is, because they're all using the same engines with the same fuel capacity, which is interesting. So like theoretically, does that mean that one actually is going to be the other? Like, is the fact that, I don't know, Milk proceeds to build a tactical spaceship rather than the fellow who builds rather than like Mirror, I think, made a shopping trolley with an engine on it, right? Like, is that worse? I mean, I'd guess that it's worse, but like if it has the same engine and same fuel and same speed, right, then would it? Is it worse? I don't know. Like, it's kind of hard to tell right now. But if we do actually have it that the better machines are going to be significantly better in the finale, then I think that is a really interesting situation to have. And then everybody starts off building their things, building their shenanigans. The characters end up beating each other up half the time. We've had to make about 5 characters end up needing like broken versions of their assets because they got into a fight. Like bro. But yeah, Shampoo ends up being Shampoo's the goat. I'm sorry, Shampoo's really cute. The way the Shampoo just moves and acts like is adorable. I'm sorry. Hashtag Shampoo FTW. Um, Currently gotta be the goat, and it's also pretty cool design. But yeah. If you think about it though, it's a hard challenge. By the way, like we did not start off easy. Build a vehicle. I mean, that's not easy to do. I mean, I guess it's fair enough that like you don't necessarily have to build a very good vehicle. Again, a lot of people just build the bike or a shopping trolley, right? Which is about the simplest thing that you can do. Building a vehicle is complicated. Like, if you are somebody, however, like Milk, who can properly plan out and build it, right? Or just somebody with arts and crafts experience, like I don't know, like the Cake Mobile indeed did, which ends up probably being the most iconic immediately available vehicle because you can see in the post credit scene, like the one that we fill out is that one. But like it is probably worth it to take the hit. I think if this is how it works, where like if you make a good vehicle, you're better off in the finale. I think that no, it's probably better to take the hit on this challenge. Like you just gotta take the hit on the challenge. Try to make some friends, right? Like waste a bit of time, maybe making some acquaintances, then build a really good aircraft because you just gotta be well set up, right? Because like if you end up you win the first challenge, like damn it, I regret winning the first challenge. I could have made it anyway, right? So like I think it is truly a worthwhile strategy to take the time here. Like it just makes sense. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, we have a couple of interesting things. P for some reason takes a little bird plush, and the mirror for some reason smells kidnapping. I'm sorry, what kidnapping from what? Where? Who was the bird? Was that your bird? What was happening? You end up holding it back and not murdering P, even though P already died. But like I don't. What is? Why? I'm lost. I'm I'm very lost at that. But yeah, we end up having a couple of things. One of the problems that the contestants do end up also having to deal with is that if you build something like a spacecraft, which a character like Bill tends to do, or those cars, right? Like we end up building a mini limo. I think the Clipper board ends up building, right? Or no, they polish up a mini limo that they have. I think, but like they end up having to also literally pull their vehicle to the finish line to successfully finish, which is interesting because that also heavily disencourages for this challenge a heavier vehicle, even though a heavier vehicle would be more sturdy in space. By the way, wait a minute, how do you find a planet? I'm trying to like decipher this final challenge for a little moment, and every time I think about it, it makes less sense. Wait a minute, they're going to take their vehicles into space and just find it? Oh, you have enough fuel to get to the planet. Wait, what? Where is it? So what? You're just gonna have them look throughout the infinity of space to find a planet. Okay, good challenge, bro. Somebody's gonna accidentally end up in the Andromeda galaxy. Like, what? What is this challenge gonna be? Oh my god! I mean, it sounds interesting, but what in the world even is it? Like, yeah, I mean, that that is. Yeah, I don't know, that's crazy. But like, um, yeah, and then also if you think about it, like, in space you can't breathe in space, right? Isn't that the thing? So aren't majority of these vehicles not gonna work because like they're just you can't bike in space, right? That's not a thing you can do. That's not possible, right? Like there's no oxygen in space. Otherwise, it's not space. It's not space if it has oxygen in it. Like what? What are we? I don't know. I'm not really understanding the challenge, man. I'm gonna be honest. But yeah, clipboard kind of taking a little bit of an advantage of the toothbrush, being the super fan and everything, right? Then when we're having an interesting moment here, 6 years, which Water Glasses, has it been 6 years? I think we might be referencing Battle for Awesome Planet. Okay, so I think these are different shows. I cannot tell you if these are different shows. However, I think they are different shows. Where Battle for Awesome Planet is a show that happened, I think, throughout 2019. Is it? I think it happened in 2019, right? Battle for Awesome Planet 2016 to 2018 version. Okay, I guess it's roughly that. So maybe that's what we're on about. Like, oh, yo, that thing was old, and then it's like canon. Maybe I don't really know, but something along those lines would be interesting. But yeah, Sapphire and Shampoo are interesting. The scenes that they have immediately they do strike me out as this is the arc of, oh, Sapphire is gonna try to manipulate Shampoo, but Shampoo is gonna win him over by just being goofy and silly, because you can kind of see in certain scenes where like she accidentally splatters the paint on Sapphire and then they both smile. Like, you see, those are the kind of scenes where it's like, oh, okay, I mean. They might be a thing, those like those scenes. Okay, I see what's happening. Maybe, I mean, maybe not, but like, I don't mind it, but it does give off that vibe to start. Then we have ourselves a couple of challenge. Okay, should we chat about challenge performance? Let's chat about challenge performance. There's a lot of little scenes here and there that are cool. So, okay, actually no. Before I chat about challenge performance, yeah, let's chat about the vehicles that people made. Okay, um, so we have the army, which ended up getting in first, with a bike with a freaking engine strapped onto it and a place to put the fuel. Basically, it's as simplistic as it gets. It's very army though, in the sense that, like, yep, it's pure fast. It's pure speed. Army's a pure speed character. I think they're gonna do pretty well. However, I'm not gonna lie. Like, with the way that they end up. Then they're going about their business. I think they're athletic and they're good. They're going to be a good challenge performer overall. I really doubt they could lose. I mean, they might lose out in teams, but other than that, yeah. Chocolate Cube just ends up making a little boat, which is interesting. For some reason, we took the time to decorate it, which you really didn't need to do. Like, that is a waste of time in all categories. But yeah, I mean, okay, it's a boat. Then we have the mini limo from the freaking the clipboard. Not sure how this flies, but that goes with a lot of things. Like, they have little wings at the top. Okay, well, it's gonna fly like a helicopter. Okay, interesting. Helicopter into space. Then we have you see, Coffee Cup makes a mini van. It's like, how does that fly? Does that fly? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, okay. Face just makes a literal, like, pod, just a single platform with an engine on it. I guess that can fly in, like, the kind of flying way. To be fair, Face can already fly, but I guess, like, I don't know, gonna be an enhancement to it. And then we have the Ultra Mobile from the spaceship from Milk. Okay, I'm presuming that they can breathe in space. Even though you cannot breathe in space, my guess is that they have to be able to breathe in space. Otherwise, like, half of these don't work. You can't bring a shopping cart into space, but not in real life. No, that won't work. But okay, Mirror, you do you. Then we have the Flying Pea Pod. To be fair, this is a pretty nice piece of machinery. It's painted, which it didn't need to be, but it's a nice piece of machinery, and it would actually work as a spaceship. You see, this is interesting. Why is P the only one with a machine that works? Ruler also, yet again, with another one of those bike types. Sapphire misunderstands the assignment and accidentally makes a go-kart with the 7 Chaos Emeralds listed on it. Okay. Then we have the Cake Mobile from a Shampoo. This is a very, very bulky helicopter, and it's a very, very bulky helicopter. That might work though. It's an enclosed space. It can breathe. Can you breathe in space? But then yeah, that's all pretty cool. Oh yeah, and then we have the aircraft from Toothbrush. The aircraft, not quite a space-ready machine, but it's very mobile in terms of flight. So it's probably good. It's one of the better ones for sure because it got a lot of flight capability, right? Like it can turn, it's got wings and everything, right? It's better than a shopping cart. Now, how you turn a shopping cart in space? You don't have anywhere to use the wheel, right? But the aircraft is actually quite good. So that's very nice. Also, how do you know how to make an aircraft? How do you? Yes. Oh my God, I'm such a girl. I go shopping and I build aircrafts in my free time. You see, oh God, is that? What is the assignment? I'm not understanding it. But then we have ourselves the end of the challenge. 500 free points just to start, which is, I guess, good in case you lose points, and it also to make things look nicer. And then we have ourselves the new challenges. So apparently, first place earned 120 points, then 110, 190, 80, all the way down to 10, which is not that much. Yeah, it's not that much. Like, it's really not that much. Because, like, you only get 10 additional points than everybody else. Like, I'm surprised that there wasn't a bonus for first place, right? It's kind of like the best performer usually should get more points. Okay, I mean, I understand not like I'm just surprised there aren't gaps. I really am. I'm surprised there aren't gaps. Like, I'd expect something like, oh, the podium, right? First, second, and third, they get 20 additional points, right? So instead it'd be like 150, then 130, then 110, and then 90. Like that. I'd expect something like that because like then finishing on the podium is important. Or like the last place, for example, for getting bottom of the barrel, they get nothing, right? They don't get points. Why would you get points for finishing last, right? Um, but like it was just it was interesting. Um, but yeah, especially for the challenge, I have to absolutely agree that, in my opinion, it was not worth it to go for speed. It was not worth it to go for points. I don't know if this is exactly how the points are going to be distributed every time. If points are distributed like this every time, then it won't be, I think, that important to do well in challenges because you won't be able to fall behind that much, because again, you're not going to end up that far away from your closest peers if you end up 1 or 2 spots behind them, basically, right? Because like the gap isn't that big between them. So I think that it's probably worth it, especially for a challenge like this, which is important in the long haul. But of course, a character like Milk or like the chocolate cake or like the clipboard, they gotta get to work. Gotta get to work to escape elimination this time because this challenge was, it was the default challenge to set the pace. However, now we actually need to lock in for the next episode. And then they all go to bed. We get introduced to a couple of other mechanics very slowly. We get introduced to Cereal Bowl, which is just the intern or the intern and pilot and advertiser and everything else guy, and refueler of the aircrafts and whatever, right? So he's there, or there, or she's there. I don't know what gender the Cereal Bowl is, but like they end up just they're the one. I'm not sure. I mean, they're like half the time they're not even on the driver's seat. Are they piloting this aircraft? Okay, no, I guess they weren't. Were they flying? No, they were flying. Alrighty. Well, I don't know. Who needs the pilots anyways? And then we have, as I said, the planet Idle, which is apparently somewhere on the aircraft, and it gives the contestant who uses it, um, like the automatic safety in elimination, which means that if you are chosen, you can use it, and then that means that you won't be eliminated. So it pretty much gives you, it's very powerful because it gives you an extra life. Because the thing about this planet Idol is that you don't have to use it before. Right, at least by the way that this rule set works. Yeah, you don't have to use it before. It's like if you were chosen and then you use the idol, which means that like you literally, yeah, you just earn an extra life because there's no other way to use the idol other than just until you're eliminated. You're like, I use the idol, right? And then it's like, okay, then that just, yeah, you just have an extra life. You really do. You will still be behind in points, by the way. That's still going to be a thing, which is interesting. But yeah, and it will make it hated. But yeah, they're in the aircraft. I'm not sure how large the aircraft is. It's probably okay. It's genuinely probably worth it to just scan out the aircraft just a bit. Like to a certain point. Apparently, there's like what, three of them. So it's definitely worth it to search for one. I think in my eyes, because that is a big deal. Like you just get an extra life, bro. A second chance. That's a big deal. You want that. Like it's not just like because like even like somebody like yeah, no, it's just the fact that you can use it after it's huge. If you had to use it before, it's hard to guess, right? Like unless it's really obvious, right? Unless you've made enemies, it's really hard to guess if you're getting out, based on who wins and who's around you, right? Like it's difficult to gauge it every time because it's going to be different every time, right? Especially if it's a team voting you out, right? So like it's going to be difficult to decide, but when you can use it after, oh yeah, go find it. That is a big deal. Um, but yeah, I you just know one of them is probably I'm telling you, okay. I don't know if this is true, but I'm telling you, that box that they sit on the confessionals. I'm telling you, the idol's in that box. I'm telling you, the idol is inside of that box. Somebody's gonna open it in like episode 7, and it's gonna be there. Okay, I'm telling you, bro. I'm so telling you, it's like it was here this whole time. Yeah, it was. I'm telling you, bro. It's gotta be, but yeah, then they go to bed and they do their thing. There's a sports hall already, where they can play sports to various degrees of whatever they want. I don't. Why is P here? P, why? What are you doing? I'm sorry. Do you not know? Did you not see this coming? Today you were gonna get hit by a baseball. Like if you like, it's not your spot. I'm sorry, bro. Like please. Um, then we end up having ourselves the outro and the post credit scene where we end up having what do we end up having? Oh yeah, the cereal bowl refueling them. I think the refueling is a cool system because it showcases your progress in the game, in like an interesting way. And it's like, oh, you are 10% of the way to full fuel, right? Which means that you are 10% of the way to winning the show, right? To the finale, right? Which is like it really doesn't matter, but it's a very symbolic thing that's like it's kind of cool, and I do hope we make use of that because it is cool wording and stuff. This guy only refills the cake mobile and then dips. I hope that he refueled the other one because like I don't know what this guy is doing. Is this bro a shampoo fan? I mean, same. I wouldn't knock it against Cereal to be a massive shampoo fan. I mean, I'm a massive shampoo fan. Shampoo's the goat, but I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know. But yeah, that is the show. So in general, TLDR, it's very slow. I think that it can be edited and pasted in a way where it just kind of goes faster. Again, you don't need to chart that. Like, I don't want you to write these episodes slower. I think the way these episodes are written are okay. You can have an episode that's written with a bit more complexity, right? However, you can have the same amount of writing and do it significantly faster, because it's hard, and it's gonna be hard to get people to watch the show because it's a long time commitment, like at the end of the day it's a big risk watching 40 minutes of like a chat about a show. No, chat about the show. That's this. That yes, it would be a big risk to watch this video, but like it's a risk to watch a 40-minute episode one of a show that you don't know anything about and that's new and up and coming, right? Because it's a lot of time. People have times and lives and stuff, right? And then so that's why like you gotta try to knock it down on the editing front, right? I tons of other shows have this type of like have longer episodes, but they're just paced quicker. Like that's what I think. We can pace it quicker, and trust me, I don't think that the show would suffer out in quality. I really don't. Like it's just that general slowness, right? Of like character says a line, 1 second until the next frame, then next character speaks, and it adds up. It adds up to an episode that feels slow. Um, Again, honestly, it's a difficult complaint for me to make because I really don't mind. I'm gonna be. I kind of don't. I kind of didn't mind. I kind of enjoyed watching it. Like on like that last 20%, I started to kind of peter off. But like in general, it was an enjoyable watch. But yeah. So that's the main thing that it has to fix. Fix the audio. Make the music quieter. It's really that simple. Make the music quieter. Make the voices more balanced. Just like before you upload your episode, do a listen through and see if the audio is good. I don't. What do shows not do this? is that is that a thing that people don't do? Because that feels obvious, but like no show does it. Um, and in general, that's about it. Everything else is pretty solid. I mean, of course, animation. It's a sideshow show, so I can't exactly criticize it on that. Character design is solid. Voice acting is solid. Everything is solid. Solidity. $12 million. And yeah, that is all for my chat about Finding the Awesome Planet, Episode 1, Act 1. Why Act 1? Bro. Let's do ourselves an outro. Alright, and that will be all for today's episode of Object Catchup. I mean, relatively long episode. We didn't necessarily take a look at an industrial quantity of things. However, awesome insanity had to be taken a look at. These requests are certainly requests that, we gotta take a look at some point. If it's not today, it's tomorrow. If it's not tomorrow, it's the next day. They are things that we have to take a look at eventually. So, I was like, yep, it makes sense to take a look at these now, because they're not like they weren't extremely big, but they were big enough to act as secondary pieces, right? So that's all cool. Will will WTB2 ever release? It is unknown at this point. I'm waiting for it because I want to take a look at the two sections together, but at this point the section after might release before. Like, bro, whatever. That's all for today's episode. For the shows that we took a look at today, we are all caught up. See you next time. Goodbye. Why did I say that? Goodbye. Yes, bye. Okay, goodbye.